Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech, where we blend casual conversations with insightful discussions on the latest in technology and gadgets.
Great to be diving in today.
Yeah, so you brought up this recent digital trends video. It features Caleb Dennison, the tech journalist.
That's the one. He's talking about these, significant new tariffs on consumer electronics.
Right, and the big question really is, how's this going to affect us? When we go to buy new tech, is it going to hit the wallet hard?
Exactly. That's what we want to unpack today. Caleb used this phrase, out of the frying pan into the fire. And it feels pretty apt right now.
Okay, out of the frying pan. I like that. So let's start basic. For folks listening, what is a tariff, really? How does it actually work its way down to us?
Sure. So think of it simply. It's a tax. A tax on goods imported, brought into the country from somewhere else.
Okay, a tax. Got it.
But the key thing is, while the importing company pays it initially, that cost, doesn't just disappear into thin air.
It has to go somewhere.
Gets passed along down the chain.
Right. So can you give us a concrete example, maybe with a TV, since that seems to be a big focus?
Yeah, absolutely. So imagine, say, a TV company making sets in Vietnam. They ship them to the U.S. Now, with these new tariffs, boom, they have to pay an extra tax on each TV.
Okay.
So what do? They likely charge the stores, Best Buy, Amazon, whoever, more for those TVs to cover their own added cost.
And then?
Those retailers, they need to make their profit margin too, right? So they raise the price you see on the sticker when you walk into the store or browse online.
So it always ends up with the consumer paying more.
Pretty much, yeah. That's typically how it shakes out. You're the one feeling the pinch.
Okay, but we've heard about tariff threats before, haven't we? Sometimes they felt more like, negotiating tactics. What makes this time feel different, based on Caleb's take?
That's a really good point. And what's interesting here is the shift.
Mm-hmm.
Past threats often were leverage. Maybe they wouldn't stick.
Right. A bit of a bluff sometimes.
Could be, yeah. But these ones, announced April 2nd. They're different. First, the percentages are high. And second, look who they're targeting, places like Vietnam, Taiwan.
Which wasn't the main focus before.
Exactly. That was a bit unexpected. And that combination, the high rates and the specific countries, it signals this might be, more serious. Less likely to just go away.
Okay, so more likely to actually impact prices this time. And the TV example you started, the numbers can get pretty steep.
Oh, yeah. The video breaks it down starkly. For TVs coming from Vietnam, for instance, the tariff could be as high as 46%.
46, wow.
Yeah. So let's say a retailer normally pays, $500 for that TV. The tariff adds another $230 just like that.
Ouch.
So to keep their usual profit margin, they'd suddenly need to charge you, the customer, something like $1,230 instead of maybe, $1,000 before. It's a big jump.
And the video even suggested it could potentially get worse than just adding the tariff cost.
Right. There's this other factor. If retailers think, okay, at these higher prices, we're going to sell fewer TVs.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. Then they might actually bump the price up even more on each TV they do sell, just to try and make up for that lower sales volume overall.
So a double whammy, potentially.
It could be.
Yeah.
It's a worrying possibility.
So the obvious question then is, why don't these companies just, move production, make the TV somewhere else without the tariff?
If only it were that simple. The video touches on this. Companies like TCL, for example, they do have factories in different places like Mexico.
Okay, so they could just switch.
Well, not really switch overnight.
Yeah.
Moving large-scale manufacturing, setting up new lines, sorting out logistics, that takes serious time. We're talking months, maybe even a year or more. It's not a quick fix.
I see. It's a huge undertaking.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another risk Caleb points out. What if they do move production, say, to Mexico? What's stopping the administration from just slapping tariffs on that country next?
Oh, right. It could become like a game of whack-a-mole.
Exactly. A
Yeah.
very expensive game of whack-a-mole for the companies and ultimately for us consumers.
So what's the supposed point of these tariffs then? What's the intended goal here?
Well, the textbook theory behind tariffs is usually to make imported goods more expensive. The hope is that this makes domestically produced goods look more attractive price-wise.
Encouraging people to buy American-made stuff?
Sort of, yeah. Or maybe addressing trade imbalances. But here's the crucial point Caleb highlights for TVs.
What's that?
There are no TVs currently being manufactured in the U.S. None.
Seriously? Not a single one?
Nope. So this particular tariff, on TVs anyway, it isn't going to magically boost U.S. manufacturing because there's nothing there to boost right now. It just makes the imported ones we have to buy more expensive.
Huh. Okay, so that strategy doesn't really apply here. And this isn't just a U.S. thing, right? Other countries might react.
Very likely. Retaliation is definitely on the table. Caleb mentions Canada has already made some moves.
Okay.
And there are signs China might retaliate too.
Yeah.
If that happens, you get this escalating situation, maybe broader trade disputes.
Meaning potentially higher prices on lots of other things, not just electronics.
Exactly. It could ripple outwards.
This is sounding increasingly concerning. And the video mentions something else, worrying companies may be raising prices now, even before the tariffs fully hit.
Yeah, that's the idea of preemptive price hikes.
Preemptive, how does that work?
Well, even for TVs or other tech, already sitting in warehouses here in the U.S., stuff that wasn't subject to the new import tax.
Right, it's already here.
Exactly. But some companies might look ahead and think, okay, future shipments will be more expensive, demand might change, so they might raise the prices on their current stock now.
Sort of getting ahead of the curve, but in a way that costs consumers more immediately.
Pretty much. It's anticipating the future market conditions, potentially boosting profits before things get tougher.
Okay, so higher prices seem likely. What about choice? Could this affect the variety of products available?
That's another potential casualty, yeah. If import costs go up across the board for a company.
They have to cut costs somewhere else.
Right. Or simplify things. They might decide to streamline their product lines, maybe cut out some of the mid-range or more budget-friendly models to focus on maintaining certain price points on their main sellers.
Which means fewer options for shoppers, especially if you're not looking for the absolute top-end stuff.
Precisely. Less variety,
Yeah.
particularly in those value-focused categories.
Okay, wow. So bringing it all together, what's the actual advice? What's the bottom line from the video if someone is actually thinking about buying a TV soon?
The advice is pretty direct, actually. Caleb basically says, if you're planning to buy a 2024 model TV,
The ones that are just coming out or recently released?
yeah, those ones, his recommendation is buy it now or, very soon.
Buy now. Why the urgency?
Because these 2024 models, they're already here or produced before these specific tariffs were announced or set to take effect. They often have initial launch discounts or deals happening already.
Okay, so they avoid the direct hit from these new tariffs.
Exactly. Now, market dynamics might still cause some general upward price pressure eventually, but they're likely going to be a much better value proposition than waiting for, say, 2025 models, which will be fully impacted by these higher import costs, assuming the tariffs stick.
That makes sense. Get in before the biggest hikes potentially hit next year's models. Did he mention any specific 2024 TVs that look like good buys right now?
He did list a few good options to consider. For the more premium LED mini LED side, he mentioned the TCL QM8 and QM7, also the Hisense U7K and U8K.
Okay, T-Cell and Hisense.
And Samsung's got the S90D and the QN90D. He also threw in a note that if you can still find last year's Samsung S90C, the 2023 model, that's still a fantastic TV.
Good tip. What about OLEDs?
Yeah, for OLED fans, he pointed to the LG C4 and the Sony Bravia 8 as strong contenders. And then for the, really top-tier stuff, the LG G4 and the Sony Bravia 9.
So quite a few specific models there.
Yeah, but his main point was broader, really. Any well-reviewed 2024 TV you buy now is probably going to be a safer bet, financially speaking, than waiting, given this tariff uncertainty.
Right, makes sense.
So if that new TV has been on your wish list, maybe now is the moment to dive in before those prices potentially take off. It's certainly something to think about.
Definitely food for thought for tech buyers right now.
Thanks for tuning in to Byte-Sized Tech. If you enjoyed the episode, like, comment, share, and subscribe for more fun tech discussions.
See you next time.